Have you ever seen Rage Against the Machine's first show? If you haven't, I'll tell you right now, it's insanely good. But not every great band started that way. Some bands were great from day one, and others not so much, which is contrary to popular belief in lots of ways. There's a fantasy people have about anyone who's great at what they do. Musicians, actors, athletes, whoever, that they showed up fully formed, that they never sucked. They walked into a rehearsal room one day and Slipknot fell out. Yeah, that's true in some cases, but it just doesn't work that way for most of them. But here's what's interesting. When you go back and watch the earliest footage you can find from bands that became massive, you can almost always see it. Even in rough performances, even when the songs don't quite work yet, there's something there. For those who don't know me, I'm Eyal Levi, CEO of URM Academy. I've been a producer and guitarist in Doth since 1999 and have been playing way longer than that. Today I'm reacting to early demos and first shows from bands that you definitely know. Korn at a house party, Rage Against the Machine's first public show, a young Slipknot in 1996, Muse at a Battle of the Bands, Linkin Park before they were even called Linkin Park, when they were still Hybrid Theory, Stone Sour's first demo, early Opeth, early Gojira. Let's get into it. We're going to start this off with Slipknot playing some show in 1996. Right off the bat, you can see they've definitely improved their visuals. Can you imagine a crowd this size at a Slipknot show? Tell you one thing, if you listen to Joey Jordison, he was already sick. I feel like this became a song that's on the self-titled. I'm really bad with song titles, but I feel like this did become one of their actual songs. That line that keeps repeating is kind of catchy, but the way that they're going about it right here, it's almost a little annoying to listen to. But there's some things here that you can still totally tell there's something special about. And for one, it's the drumming. Joey Jordison was already awesome. God, that outfit, that's something special. Imagine being in the crowd seeing this. I bet you that those people at whatever state fair or whatever this is are like, what the fuck is going on stage? And interestingly enough, once Slipknot actually became the Slipknot we know and love, and they played that first Ozfest, people had a similar reaction of like, what the fuck is this going on stage? However, it was awesome and they couldn't take their eyes off it. I think this has that same what's going on vibe, but not really like in a good way, more like in a what is up with the dude wearing the leather straps on his face. Man, I tell you, getting Corey Taylor was a good idea. What's the number one problem that local bands have? In my experience, is bad vocalists. That's one of the hardest things to find when you're at a local level. That's the one thing that is going to be the biggest game changer of all. And just think about this band pre-Corey Taylor and after Corey Taylor. It's no contest. Before I go any further, I wanted to mention the brand new URM Academy iOS app, which is out now in the App Store. Log in with your URM account and you can access Nail the Mix, Mix Labs, and Fast Tracks. It's also great for riff hard because you can zoom in on the notation and use the built-in metronome, which includes presets for all of the schedule exercises. Just tap on the lesson and it'll set the metronome automatically. And last but not least, you can also download videos to your device to watch offline for those of you that have a long commute, travel, or anything like that. It's in the App Store as URM Academy. There's also a link in the description of this video, or you can scan the QR code on the screen right now. So we're going to check out an old demo by Gojira back when they were called Godzilla. This is from 1997. I don't know if it's their first demo. You know, I really only started hearing about them in 2005 with From Mars to Sirius. I know that they had stuff before that. I'm just not familiar with it. I'm a normie. That's where my Gojira knowledge begins. I don't know what their old stuff is like.
It burns! Oh, it burns! Oh.
90s metal bands and their long-ass intros. It was a thing. Well, Mario was already awesome. Okay, they were already sick. Yeah, that's what I mean. With some of these bands, you hear their old stuff and it's like, yep, you know it. Yeah, this is like old school death metal, sure. And what Gojira turned into was a very modern thing. But I remember the first song that I really got into was The Heaviest Matter in the Universe, where they have that Morbid Angel section with the double bass and the harmonic rakes. And I remember thinking, this is like if Morbid Angel came out now, if they were a new band in 2005, I know Gojira weren't a new band in 2005, but just like if Morbid Angel was a current band, this is what they'd sound like. They took that thing that Morbid Angel started with Where the Slime Live and modernized it. And you can hear in their past work that they do come from a legit death metal background. But I want to point out a few things. Listen to how tight they already are. Those guitars, tight as fuck. Those drums, tight as fuck. They are already on their game. And if they had just kept doing old school death metal, they would have been a very, very good old school death metal band. Yeah, you can hear the early makings of that Gojira groove. It's a very, very specific to them kind of thing. It's the way that their chugs feel. It's like this, like, stomping sort of slow, heavy, just monster. I guess, you know, they were called Godzilla, so monster makes sense. I mean, you can hear their sound in this.
Am I lost forever?
That reminds me of Death a lot, but listen to how tight they already were back then. I realize this isn't the fastest stuff, but it doesn't matter. Listen to how tight it is. Good use of themes and variations. Taking the same theme through muted, then opened with the double bass, then with harmonies, and now back to muted harmonies with the vocals. That's another thing that Gojira are really good at, is totally changing the feel, like at the drop of a hat. That's one of the things that they're best at. Oftentimes bands try to do that and it just sounds jarring, but there's something about Gojira where they know exactly the right moment where something has gone on the exact amount of time to where if it goes on any longer, it's going to get boring, and something unpredictable, something that will be like a pattern interrupt, is the best thing for the song. And so they change the feel drastically, and that's what they did here. You can see the seeds of what they'd become in this. Another great change, and just tight as shit. All right, let's move on. But before we do, I need to say something that I talked about in the Why You Suck at Guitar video, but it bears repeating because some people got hung up on this. But talent is real. It just is. You can have 10 people who start playing at the exact same time, with the exact same resources, with the exact same gear, with the exact same teacher, who all put in equal time. And some people are going to just get better faster than others. And just so you all understand, when I say that people are faster at getting the instrument, I mean they learn faster, not that they play faster. In some cases, yes, they can play faster than other people, but what I mean is they get better faster. They pick it up faster, a shorter amount of time, from suck to suck less to good. What's cool about watching and listening to this early footage and first demos is that you get to see early stage talent in action. Some of these bands were already good, some of them weren't, but you can always see the seeds. And in almost every case, there's something you can learn from watching how these specific bands with these specific lineups turn into what they would become. With that said, here's Muse playing, I think, a Battle of the Bands, 1994.
Together and welcome band number 3, Muse! Good. Right, we're gonna... That's all right. We'll play 5 songs that we wrote ourselves.
Anyone ever been to a Muse show? It's a spectacle, and it's always in an arena or a stadium. It's really, really funny to think about Muse playing something like this. Sounds like the drummer was already pretty good. I mean, his timing's not quite perfect, but I mean, this is like middle school or early high school. Like, it's not going to be perfect, but you can already tell he's playing with a lot of intensity. He's hitting hard. You could tell that he's going to be a good drummer. The two friends getting into it. So one thing I want to point out is you can already see how seriously they take their music. They don't sound great. They're not great yet, but there's something about the way that they're playing and how tight they are with each other that you can tell they're actually being serious about this. All right, so they were already doing vocal harmonies back then. That's something that they have become incredible at. They have some of the best vocal harmonies out there. Some of them are like Queen level vocal harmonies. And you can see they were doing that from the beginning. And that's one of the ways that as a 3-piece, they sound way bigger than a 3-piece, is by having every member of the band do more than just their primary instrument. So they were already working on those arrangement skills back before they were anybody. it's got to be said. Don't be discouraged by your own footage or your own demos. Remember, every band that you love started as a local band and they sucked at some point in time. And they would probably be embarrassed if you showed them some of their early work. The greats just kept on grinding until they became awesome. They had vision, they had work ethic, they had some pre-installed talent, and they just didn't give up. All right, let's move on. We've got Korn at a house party in 1993. So you're aware the first Korn album that we know came out in 1994. So this is pre-famous Korn. Okay, so they've already got the groove down. They've already got the interplay, the interesting interplay between the two guitars. It sounds like their identity was already getting figured out. Okay, so John Davis was always a maniac. There's basically all the elements of the sound on Korn's first album that is legendary at this point. Obviously, this doesn't sound very good. It's probably camcorder audio, but you can kind of tell. Strangely enough, you can kind of tell. All right, Opeth makes some exquisite music. They're like a fine wine or like a 3-star Michelin meal as far as progressive metal goes. They're just so refined and sophisticated. So let's see what they sounded like before they were famous. So right off the bat, already using clean guitars. That's something we all know that they use a lot, and already setting a vibe from the get-go. That's a cool riff, actually. Really nice entrance of the double kicks right there. And I like that there's the upper harmonies that have the effects on them. It just sounds dark and ominous. And I can imagine that with a good production, this would sound awesome and huge. Okay, so that transition into that clean part there, not the smoothest, but that's okay because they were already taking chances with their writing, and their transitions now are incredible. They became amazing at transitions, one of the best at going from one style to another style to another style, all in the space of, a 12-minute song. That takes a lot of skill and a lot of craft, and I think that at this point, they weren't quite there yet with it, but they were already headed in that direction. Using the volume knob for swells for a melody, that's already tasteful. And they do a lot of that kind of stuff, later in their career. But also the melody has a call and a response to it. So they're already crafting full melodies, not just melodic fragments. right, so Opeth got a lot better. This is very different than the early Gojira stuff. That was already amazing from the get-go. This is very, very rough and needs a lot of work. But what's important to point out is that the vision that Mike Ackerfeld had for the band is already present within this. Like all the elements that would become, you know, Blackwater Park or Deliverance and Damnation or Ghost Reveries, you can hear them in this. It's not as good as that, but the vision is there. I harp on and on and on about vision, but as an artist, you've got to have vision. You've got to know where you're headed. Even if you don't know exactly what the end result will be, you need to have some sort of a North Star artistically that propels you forward. Something. All right, so this is Hybrid Theory, now known as Linkin Park. I guess jamming in a rehearsal space before they were Linkin Park. Whether you love or hate Linkin Park, they did become one of the biggest bands of all time. And we know them with super huge, amazing sounding production. So let's see what they were like as a local band. Not very tight yet.
Riding with the
We rehearse. Not only do we try to rehearse the shows to enhance the live performance, but we actually enjoy practicing like it's a live show. Because it's really who we are. We really like to go off. That's what we like. You know, it's kind of pointless to sit in a practice studio and pull up a bunch of stools and sit down and practice like that.
I completely agree with Chester, RIP. Practice like you intend to perform. Obviously, if you're first learning something or showing it to the guys or working it out, sure, you sit down, work it out, play it slowly. But when you're actually rehearsing a performance, so maybe we can say practice and rehearsal are two different things. You know, practice is like you're just trying to get the mechanics down, trying to learn the parts. But rehearsal, you're rehearsing a show. So you need to play it like a show, and you need to induce stress. It's very hard to induce the kind of stress that you feel on stage. Like you almost can't really recreate that, but you can make the environment harder for yourself so that whatever you experience in the rehearsal room will be harder than what you experience out in the world. So a few things you can do is break down your rig completely and then set a timer. Make yourself set it up as quickly as possible. Like try to get it all set up within 5 to 10 minutes and then go into it. You can turn the lights off. You can put strobe lights on. You can put space heaters in. I used to do that with my band back at Berkeley because I'm a psychopath, is we would practice with space heaters and strobe lights on because shows get hot and you can't always see well. You can get distracted by things, and what's more distracting than being in a dark room with a fucking strobe light when you're sweating your balls off? We didn't practice like this 100% of the time, but when we were specifically rehearsing for a show, like the entire week leading up to that, we would induce adverse conditions, and then the shows typically went really, really well. You've got to find some way to induce some stress to basically have what's known as stress inoculation. Stress inoculation is what gives people that confidence on stage. So when you see a national act or an international act, when they have a local opener and they blow them off the stage, even if the local opener in some cases might be more talented than even the opening national band, the national band is going to blow them off stage for the simple reason that they play with more confidence and they have more stage presence. And that's because they've done it more and more reps, and therefore they are stress inoculated. They're not scared up there. With local bands, you see that they're scared up there. They might pretend like they're not and pretend like they're all into it and pretend like they're confident. But for whatever reason, we can tell the difference. It's not something you can fake. And the only way to get better at it is by doing it a lot. So rehearse like you intend to perform and do it a lot. All right, let's move on. This is a Stone Sour demo, 1994. So before Corey Taylor joined Slipknot, it's a very, very interesting move that Slipknot made because, I mean, you heard what they used to sound like. They were local contemporaries with Stone Sour. It makes you wonder, what did they see in Corey Taylor when they asked him to join? Someone's a Metallica fan. All right, so Corey's voice already sounds like Corey's voice even in 1994. If you listen to any of the clean parts from any Slipknot album, he already sounds like this. So 90s. Reminds me of like Matchbox 20 or Candlebox or, you know, one of those bands. God, I gotta point something out about tuning, vocal tuning. If you go back and you listen to older records, the further back you go, the more out of tune the vocals were. My dad has perfect pitch, and I remember when I was a kid, he would turn off the radio because it would make him nuts that these vocals were so out of tune. And I don't mean the Stone Sour demo in particular. This is like on everything, like on pop records, rock records, just like vocals were out of tune. He'd always be like, that's so flat. I can't take it. Turn it off. And I couldn't hear it. As a kid, like I didn't understand what the problem was. But now when I go back and I hear stuff from like the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, lots of the time the vocals are just so out of tune and nobody cared, which gets me wondering if auto-tune and melodyne and vocal tuning had never been invented, would we have gotten better at just delivering in-tune vocals, or would we continue to not care? I don't know. But in-tune vocals have been so normalized that now you can really hear it when they're not. Same thing happens when you play an Evertune guitar. If you get used to an Evertune, a regular fixed or floating bridge guitar will feel completely out of tune to you, even if it's in tune, because you've gotten used to it being so perfect. Rage Against the Machine, first public performance. I've seen some of this before, but let's check it out. Whether or not you're a fan of Rage Against the Machine, ask yourself, was your band's first show this good?
Thanks for coming out today, and here's Rage Against the Machine.
1991. Okay, from the first note, you can hear it. And I've said this before, with like really good guitar players, oftentimes you will know from them strumming one chord that they're good. With really good bands, you can tell from the first hit that this band has their shit together. And that's what's happening here. Like, they already sound awesome. Already tight. Their pocket is great. They're playing great with each other. Oh, is the one girl dancing? Notice how behind the beat they are, but together. Like, they are already in sync about nuances of feel. That's something that usually takes bands a really, really long time and many, many shows to develop. And they're already that way from show one. Already have great pocket. I mean, this is a very, very famous riff right out the gate. Like, this is the riff. This is the riff that everybody knows, and they're already playing it great. Maybe they sped it up on the record. I don't know. I haven't heard it in ages. But I think that the real thing ended up being faster. But still, this groove is just really groovy. a really long time to go without vocals. So I'll say my biggest critique so far is the song structure. But on the note about song structure, I mean, we're watching their first show. We've been seeing bands before they would even be considered a baby band. Obviously, they'd get producers who came in and they would get better at their songs. But right here, this became a very famous song. Zach's already confident. That's impressive. And I'm saying that based on how he came on stage and is walking around. He hasn't even done anything, and he already has confidence. Notice how he's fucking owning it. Again, whether you like this stuff or not, just pay attention to how in charge he is. When you see local bands, do you normally see their vocalists being this confident? I don't think so. So that's the pattern. Some bands, you could basically hear it from the get-go. With others, you had to squint to really see it. But in all cases, there was something there. That's the thing I want you to take away from this. The bands that you love almost all sounded rough at the beginning. They had embarrassing shows. They had demos they probably wish nobody could find. But they kept going, and the talent that was always there got refined into what you now know. So if you're in that early stage right now, don't worry about rough footage or rough sounding early recordings. Worry about whether you're actually getting better or not. Look for your own flashes of brilliance and expand on them. What about you? Which one of these surprised you the most? Was there one that you would have expected to always be great and then the footage shocked you, or the opposite? Let me know in the comments, and as always, like, share, subscribe. See you next time.